In the last lecture, we were discussing about the various ways of classifying polymers, and at the end we came at the most important ways to important way to classify polymer is based on its structure and the mechanism by which it is typically polymerized. With on the basis of structure, we it was said that you can divide polymerization polymers in addition and condensation in two ways, and in case of by the mechanism which you can synthesize polymer, you can divide polymer into two classes by step polymerization or by chain growth polymerization. Now, if you remember from my last lecture that in case of chain growth polymers, the monomers are not started the polymerization reaction by itself. You need to have a external agent which will initiate the polymer chain, and once the chain starts, monomer can add one after one and thus completing the chain quickly. And in this case, we have seen or we have discussed in last lecture that the rate of initiation is typically much slower compared to the rate at which the chain propagates and completes. Now, in case of step growth polymerization, we also talked about that you typically have a monomer react with monomer at the beginning, gives you a dimer, and then when the dimer is formed, it can react with mono, gives you trimer, or it can react with itself to gives you a tetramer, and this trimer can again react with monomer, gives you a tetramer, and so on. So, in case of step growth polymer or step growth polymerization process, the polymers are formed in various stages, steps, first di, tri, tetra. If you stop a reaction, step growth reaction after some time before completion, what will you get in the polymerization medium? If you remember or recollect from your memory, in case of chain polymerization, if you stop the reaction in between, say after a small amount of monomers got reacted, you will find that you have high molecular weight polymer as well as lots of monomers depending upon which stage you have stopped the reaction, and also initiator molecules. Now, in case of step growth polymerization, if you stop in between, you will see all these small molecules, these are called oligomers, and a small amount of monomer depending upon at which stage you have stopped the reaction. So, the high molecular weight polymers in step growth polymers only form at the later stage, at the very late stage of the polymerization process. Now, what I mean by latest stage? Now, first define what is conversion in a polymerization process. Conversion is fraction of functional groups that are reacted in the process. Now, it can be expressed as a percentage or it can be expressed as the fraction. So, let us take example. I have say 50, say 25, I have 25 AA type monomer 1, another 25 BB type monomer. So, what is the total number of functional group here? Total number of functional groups are how much? How many? So, that is 100. Total number of molecules is 50. Now, let us these monomers all react with each other, and in the first step you have reaction monomer plus monomer gives you dimer, and for simplistic imagination, we just thinking that all the monomers and half of the monomers, like 25 of this monomer is reacting with 25 monomers and giving a 25 dimers. For our simplistic understanding, we are following this process, this understanding. So, functional groups how many now? 25 dimers. So, each contains 2, which means functional groups are 50. So, conversion is 50%, and what is the degree of polymerization is 2. Degree of polymerization is the number of structural unit present in the polymer chain or polymer molecule. Let us consider in the second step all these dimers reacted with each other forming tetramer. How many tetramer will be there? 12.5 on average, which means you have 25. So, if I write that 12 is reacting with 12 dimer, 1 is remaining, which means that you had 12 tetramers plus 1 dimer left, which makes it on average 12.5 tetramers, 12 tetramer plus 1 dimer, which resulting in on average it is 12.5 dimer. So, I can write 12.5, 12.5 give it 12.5. So, how many functional group now present in the reaction momentum? It is 25. So, what is the conversion? 75%, and degree of polymerization is close to 4. You can calculate degree of polymerization from the number of tetramer and dimer is present divided by total number of total molecules present in the system. So, in case of 12, so 12 multiplied by 4 plus 1 dimer 1 plus 2 divided by total number of molecules, that is 13. So, which gives you around close to 4. So, let us again for simplicity consider these tetramers are reacting with each other forming octamer. So, I will write say 6.25 of this reacting with 6.25 gives you octamers. How many? So, 6.25 on average. So, how many number of functional groups now? 12.5. So, what is the conversion is 87.5, which is will give you approximately a degree of polymerization of 8. Let us take another step where you are taking these octamers reacting with octamers forming this 16 mer, which is of which will come around 1 to 5 numbers, gives you 6.25 functional group, 93.75 conversion percentage, and degree of polymers is 16. So, what I am trying to make you understand, following this simple process where we just considering the highest maximum possible sizes, dimer reacting with dimer gives you tetra, tetra reacting with tetramer gives you octa, octa reacting with octamer gives you 16 mer. So, in this case you can see how the degree of polymerization, which relates to the size of the polymer chain or polymer molecules varying with conversion. So, even at very low conversion, I mean low dP, you have a high amount of conversion. So, this emphasize even for example, at say 94% conversion, you have only 16 dP, which is not a polymer yet. Okay, it is still a oligomer. Now, remember this is I am just following the simple reaction. This tetramer can react with dimer, monomer and trimer further reducing the chains. So, finally, this dP will even at this conversion rate actual dP will be lower than this 16, 8 and 4 or 2. I am just talking about the one simplistic case where following the simple reaction. So, you can now understand that if I plot say percentage conversion with dP degree of polymerization or say molecular weight or molecular weight in case of step growth polymerization, it will only start from a slow. So, very low conversion, the high the polymer chains only will be achieved, high molecular polymer chains will be only achieved at very high conversion close to 98% above. Okay. So, this should clearly give you understanding that in case of step growth polymerization, you can have the high molecular weight, which is the practical polymers which usable polymers can be achieved only when the conversion is quite high, very high, more than 98% and so. So, if I want to compare between the chain and step growth polymerization, percentage conversion versus molecular weight. In case of chain polymerization, you had a situation like this, where you can achieve the high molecular weight at the beginning, and the time goes, or the more and more monomer get converted, more and more get reacted, you get the amount of high molecular weight polymers more and more with time. And in case of step polymers, you get the high molecular weight only at very high conversion. Now, in some cases, the chain polymerization can gives you a situation like this, where the molecular weight increases linearly with the conversion. It arises situation where the rate of initiation is faster compared to rate of propagation, and also the reactions which were responsible for terminating a reactive species, reactive chain, were absent in this case. So, in the first case, in this case, which is the normal, which is most of the in general the chain reaction, that initiation is slower compared to the propagation, chain propagation or the formation of polymer chain, which means as the chain gets initiated, it completes very fast. So, you get high molecular polymer at the beginning, and as the time goes, more and more chains get initiated. So, you get more and more polymer with average molecular weight remains same. But if you have a situation where your initiation is faster compared to the propagation or chain formation rate, that means the initiation happens quickly at the beginning, and as your chain or the monomers get added to the reactive chain ends, then your polymer chain grows linearly. As you more and more monomers get added to the reactive end chain ends, more and more polymer gets added. So, your polymer chain increases linearly, and in this case it has, if it has to happen, it has to have the reactions which responsible for the chain termination of by terminating the reactive end groups has to be absent in this case. So, that polymer chain can increase linearly. So, let us compare between the two polymerization processes one more time in the chain and step polymers. In case of this left side is step polymers and this side is chain polymers. So, as you seen that step polymers happens stepwise. So, and the reactions are between functional groups. So, reactivities of those functional is not very high, and it's a equilibrium process, and during the reaction you have to make sure that your equilibrium goes towards right by taking out the byproduct formation from the system. So, it takes much longer time compared to chain reactions, where the reactions happen quickly in a shorter time. Obviously, as the reactivity of the functional groups are lower, you need higher reaction temperature to overcome the activation energy, which requires your reactions to be done at very high temperature. Now, high temperature reaction is not only to increase the reactivities in or the equilibrium constant of the reaction, but also if you want to remove, if somebody wants to remove the byproduct like say water in polyester formation, or say example a water from polyester formation, to take out the water you have to increase the temperature high and put a high vacuum, so that you can take out the water from the system, which will give you the equilibration towards product side, towards right hand side, which will lead to formation of polymer molecules. And in the other case of chain reaction, you can do it with lower reaction temperature as well, because the reactivity of these monomers are quite high. In case of step growth polymers, you generally get a byproduct formation, and but if there are examples where this reaction happen without formation of byproduct formation, and in case of chain polymers there is no byproduct formation. And as I said repeatedly, in case of step polymers you get the high molecular only at high conversion, where in case of chain polymers you can get a high molecular even at low conversion. With time or with conversion, only the number of high molecular chains or the amount of high molecular chain increases. In case of step polymers, the monomers, as you have seen from the earlier pages, that monomers disappears early from the reaction, whereas in case of chain polymers the monomers disappears steadily with time, and as monomers disappears you get high molecular chains formings. And typically in step growth polymers you have heteroatom in the backbone, whereas in the chain polymers typically are formed by the carbon backbone. Now, this classification of step and chain growth polymers also is not completely unambiguous. For example, if I have a monomer like this, propylene oxide, and I make a polymer from this. Now, by from looking at the structure of this molecule or in polymer molecule, it is because it has a heteroatom in the backbone ether group, it seems like it is a chain growth step growth polymers, but it is the mechanism of these polymers resembles more of a chain polymers of the type I mentioned in last page. So, more close to chain polymerization. So, this type of ring opening polymers, by structure you may confuse with this with the step growth polymers, but actually from the mechanism the way it is synthesized, this is more close to a chain polymerization of this type than a step growth polymers, where the polymers are formed stepwise, dimer, trimer, tetramer and so on. In this case, the formation happens by addition of monomers towards the chain ends. More example of such can be given where this classification is not completely unambiguous. So, what the conclusion or what the final message you should remember, that this addition and chain polymers or chain growth polymers, they should not be used interchangeably, and so as your condensation and step polymers. So, you should remember that though these addition and chain polymers are quite similar in terms of structure, and most of the chain polymers are made by addition reactions and most of the step polymers are synthesized by condensation reaction, but they are different, they should not be used interchangeably. Some IUPAC has suggested that this should be named as polycondensation instead of step polymers or step growth polymerization, but step growth polymers is much more broader nomenclature compared to a term like polycondensation, which is narrower. So, now I move to a new topic, nomenclature. How do you name polymer molecules? Again, like the various classification ways of various ways of classifying polymer molecules, this nomenclature is also not very unambiguous. The most easy, simple and least ambiguous method of naming polymers is from its source. From source, that means if you have a polystyrene this is styrene. So, you just prefix this term poly followed by the monomer term and you name this as a polystyrene. So, acrylonitrile would give you polyacrylonitrile and so on. So, this is very simple where, and this is done mostly from, if the polymers are made from a single monomer, which monomer is directly converted to the polymer. So, like styrene to polystyrene and acrylonitrile to polyacrylonitrile and say ethylene oxide to polyethylene oxide. Now, if I write this polyethylene oxide, this might give you different structure depending upon how do you represent this molecule. If I write this like polyethylene oxide, put a bracket, it might look like this, polyethylene, or a cyclic okay. So, if I write polyethylene oxide, that means oxide of polyethylene, it will look like this, but if I write the same molecule polyethylene oxide, then it will mean this, this is polyethylene oxide, which is actually what it is. This is ethylene oxide and you get a polymer from this like this. So, if you have a multi-worded monomer, then you must put a bracket before prefixing the term poly. So, in this case ethylene oxide, you must put a bracket, the monomer inside the bracket and then prefix the term poly. Otherwise, if you do not put a bracket, it might gives you a confusion of which finally which structure it is. Some other example we can give, and if there is the monomer is very complex, or it has substituted parent name, then also you have to put bracket before you prefix the polymer, a poly term. For example, polymethyl methacrylate, a polymer formed from 3-methyl 1-pentene, because these are substituents. So, you have to put this monomer term within bracket. So, if I have a monomer like this, Ceylon caprolactam, I get a by ring opening polymerization I can get this polymer. Now, this will, how do we name again, because this is just a polymer of the monomer. So, polycaprolactam, caprolactam. Now, same monomer can be synthesized from condensation of 6 amino caproic acid. You can get the same polymer which were shown here. Okay. So, the same polymer can be achieved by ring opening polymers of Ceylon caprolactam and a cell condensation of 6 amino caproic acid. So, you can also write this as 6 amino caproic acid. So, the same structure, same polymers sometimes can be named in a different way, Sometimes the polymers are named from hypothetical monomers. For example, I have this polymer are generally synthesized by hydrolysis of this polyvinyl acetate. Okay, this is vinyl acetate and I put poly term in between, we will give polyvinyl acetate. So, this polymer is generally formed by hydrolysis of the polyvinyl acetate. But if you look without knowing that it has synthesized from hydrolysis of this, you can imagine or hypothesize that it has been synthesized from this monomer, which is vinyl alcohol. Now, as a matter of fact that this does not exist as such independently, because it exclusively exists at its tautomer of acetaldehyde, but because this polymer looks like that it has been synthesized from a hypothetical monomer like this, this polymer is generally named as polyvinyl alcohol. Okay. So, this is some cases where this is one of the example of where you name the polymer from a hypothetical monomer. How you typically name these step polymers? Now, we just gave example of this alpha 6 amino caproic acids condensing to 6 amino caproic acid polycaprolic acid in last page in this one. So, if the polymer is forming from by polycondensation or step growth polymers from one monomer, then you can simply write prefix poly and put the monomer name after that. That will gives you name. If it is formed from two monomers like this terephthalic acid, plus ethylene glycol, you get polyethylene terephthalate. In this case, you identify in the polymer structure in which class it belongs. For example, whether this belongs to a ester class or a carbonate or a amide or urethane. So, you first identify the polymer, look at the polymer and identify which class it belongs, and then name accordingly from which this polymers it synthesized. So, when you make a polyester from these two monomer terephthalic acid and ethylene glycol, you get a polymer which is a polyester. So, you know how esters are named. So, name accordingly. How do you name this then? Ester formed from terephthalic acid and ethylene glycol. So, you name it ethylene terephthalate, and because it is a polymer. So, you are writing this polyethylene terephthalate. So, similarly, you can name other step growth polymers as well, where you have to first identify the functional group or the class in which they belong, and then accordingly you name the polymer. So, a polymer which is formed from say sebacic acid and hexamethylene sebacic acid and say diamine, acid and amine, which will you have to put name as a amide. So, hexamethylene diamine plus sebacic acid, you will call that polymer as a polyhexamethylene sebacimide. Okay, you understand? So, first if it is a polyester, you have to name as a polyester like polyethylene terephthalate. If it is a amide, you have to name as a amide. Now, UPAC, because there is so many confusion or about naming polymers, UPAC has given a guideline how to name polymers. For that, you have to first identify the constitutional repeat unit of the polymers. The repeat unit we talked about, that means if you write a polymer structure and the bracket here put N, that means you have to find the portion, the unit which is repeating. So, if you build a polymer structure, which structure has to be repeated. So, in case of polyethylene, if you want to write polyethylene, you know this is repeated. And once you identify the constitutional repeat unit, then you have to place these different parts of this repeat unit according to the seniority from left. You already identified the repeating unit, and then how do I name the repeating unit? You have to place the repeating unit such a way that the seniority, the part which is senior most gets you put in the extreme left hand side. Now, how do you determine seniority? You follow the order like heterocyclic ring, chains with heteroatom, carbocyclic ring, and chains with only carbon. So, if I have polyethylene oxide, now UPAC suggests that I have identified this is the repeat unit, constitutional repeat unit in this polymer polyethylene oxide, but according to the seniority you have to write this as this. So, the name will be polyoxyethylene instead of polyethylene oxide. So, though we name polyethylene because we know that this polymer has been made from ethylene molecule, but because the constitutional repeat unit is this, then according to UPAC you have to say this as a polymethylene. Okay. So, how do you name this one? Now, in commonly it is known as polyisobutylene, but according to UPAC it will be poly 1,1 dimethyl ethylene. What about this very common polystyrene? accordingly UPAC it will be poly 1 phenyl ethylene. So, the PET molecule polyethylene terephthalate we have to write according to the seniority the constitutional repeat unit like this, and UPAC name accordingly would be polyoxyethylene oxy, this is terephthalate. Okay. The UPAC name becomes very complicated, very difficult, mostly for these step growth polymers. See, this was very easy to name in our conventional way as polyethylene terephthalate, whereas UPAC would suggest that you name this as polyoxyethylene oxy terephthalate. So, it has become very difficult. So, that is why UPAC nomenclatures are not very used very regularly, unless you are making a completely new monomer new polymer from a new monomer, or the name of the polymers is not conventionally available. Like polystyrene, if I tell polystyrene as poly 1 phenyl ethylene, first time somebody hears, the person will not be able to correlate what is talking about, what I am talking about. But if I say polystyrene, it is very easy for the person who is listening, it is easy to comprehend the structure. So, typically IUPAC nomenclature is not followed in case of polymer nomenclature. Now, unless you have a new structure from a new monomer, then you have to name, there is no common name exists. So, you have to name according to UPAC, or is very complicated name, complicated structure where common names are very difficult, like copolymers and so on. The structures are very difficult commonly. Then you apply this UPAC nomenclature procedure and name that polymer. And also in case of polymer, especially in case of the polymers which are sold in large quantities, they have trade names. Trade names with this is the commonly known in the market. And the problem in case of, because as I said in earlier classes, that in earlier lectures, that when you use a final polymer material, you do not use the polymer as such from the synthesis, after it coming out from synthesis, you add with some other additives and then make compounding and finally form a product out of that. So, that the final use of that polymer is not as such 100% polymer, there will be some other ingredient as well, and that plastic or that final use of that polymer, that is you say the companies sell this as trade name. But the problem is in trade names that somebody who is learning polymer chemistry, or it is very difficult to remember, because same polymer will have different trade names coming from different companies. Like polycarbonate would be called Lexan by SABIC, Macrolon by Bayer and so on. So, plexiglass will be PMMA from one supplier and Lucite with some other company. So, it is very difficult, but somebody who is in the market, who is practicing regularly, that person which is a practicing polymer scientist or polymer chemist, it is probably useful for them to necessary for them to remember the trade names as well, along with the common name or the names which typically used for the polymer molecules. So, after this nomenclature, we will move to one of the important aspect of polymer molecular weight. Now, molecular weight is relative term, that means is the weight of a molecule compared to divided by the weight of isotope C12. So, sometimes it also more correctly it mentioned as molar mass, which is basically the mass of 1 mole of that molecule. So, you can have a unit, the molecular weights are unitless, whereas molar mass has a unit, gram per mole or kg per mole, typically gram per mole. So, in this course we will use this both the terms molecular weight and molar mass, and as you can understand that these are almost same, you can, as long as you remember what the meaning is, you can use these two terms molecular weight and molar mass independently. Now, as I said very beginning that when you make a polymer molecules, now polymer samples always comes with a distribution of molecular weight. Not all the chains are of same size, they are not of same sizely. Not all the polymers have same size, same number. So, you will always have a something like a distribution, big, small, medium, like that. Now, when you see the mechanism of polymerization, we will probably more appreciate why you cannot have all the polymer chains of same size or same molecular weight. They always has to be a distribution. Now, when you have a distribution, to characterize or to represent this sample having different polymer molecules of different sizes, you have to mention the average mass, average molar mass, because it is a mixture of several molar mass molecules. You have to mention a average and also the distribution, then only it will represent the actual sample what in your hand or what you are handling with. So, how do you the polymer or polymer molecules are defined? A simple arithmetic average by total weight divided by the number of molecules, which gives us that number average molecular weight. So, I will put in different page, number average molecular weight. Now, again you can write number average molar mass as well. It is represented as sometimes like this, some books write like this. So, you can choose to write any of this and sometimes simply Mn, because we know as a polymer person or when we using polymers in a sample, that always it is average. So, even if you write simply Mn, it will understand it will be understood by all of us who is seeing that it is a average molecular weight. So, number average molecular weight. So, you can mention any of this symbol or you can simply mention Mn. So, we will in this course we will use Mn for most of the time. It is a simple arithmetic means. So, Mn would be total mass or weight by total number of moles. So, we are talking about molar mass in this case, total weight. You have, if you have I number of molecules, you can sum with I and you can sum individual. Ni is the number of molecules in that sample, having mass of Wi. Okay. So, total mass will be given by total summation of all the molecules divided by total number of moles. Number of molecules in this case it is moles, we are talking about moles, number of moles of these things. So, you can write Ni, this is Mi. So, how do you get total molecular weight? Total mass of the sample. Ni is the number of moles having molecular weight of this. So, you multiply each one Ni Mi, which will give you the weight of or mass of the that sample, and you sum over all the samples and divided by total number of moles gives you the Mn, number average molecular weight, or you can simply write this as Xi Mi, where this Xi is mole fraction of the molecules having molecular weight of Mi. Okay. So, Mn, number average molecular weight, is nothing but is simply arithmetic. It is simply arithmetic mean, average of your sample. So, you get total mass Ni Mi divided by total number of moles. So, which gives you molecular mass, molar mass, in the mass gram per mole. We define the second molecular weight, which is MW bar or MW, which is weight molecular weight, which is defined at, in last case we had this mole fraction multiplied by the molecular weight of individual fractions. In this case we have weight fraction multiplied by the molecular weight of the individual fraction. So, Wi is the weight fraction of the molecules having molecular weight of Mi. So, I can write individual molecules by total weight So, weight fraction by total weight of the individual fraction divided by the total weight, and individual fraction is given by Ni Mi. So, you have another Mi which will give you Ni Mi square. So, you get Mw as this. Remember what was Mn? Mn was Ni Mi by Ni. Now, in case there is another molecular weight defined, Mz, which is Mi cube Mi square. This is Mz. And sometimes viscosity is used as to determine the molecular weight, which gives you viscosity average molecular weight Mv, which is, all the expressions are similar, close to each other. So, this is viscosity average molecular weight, this is Z average molecular weight, but most commonly these two terms are used and those are sufficient for your description of your sample. And to quantify the breadth or the distribution, this term is used, polydispersity index, or simply sometimes dispersity index, which is given by this ratio. So, the higher is this ratio, higher is the polydispersity index, that means higher is the breadth. So, if you have a polymer sample weight fraction mi like this compared to something like this will be, they may be have similar molecular weight average, but this will be much more broader, they will highly, the PDI value for this sample will be much higher compared to the value for this sample. So, typically how this what is the ranking? MZ is always higher than MW, then MV and MN. Now, these two are quite close to each other, MV and MW are very close to each other. So, of this all the 4 molecular weight we talked about, Mn is having the least value, Mz is the highest, and then Mw, and Mw and Mv are very close, within 10 to 20%. Mv is always lower than Mw, but it is very close within 10 to 20%. So, if I plot weight fraction between and the molecular weight or Mi, which is molecular weight, the curve will look like this, and this will be say Mn, Mw, Mv, and this will be something Mz. And remember Mw by Mn is PDI, polydispersity index. So, in the next lecture I will continue now what is the necessary for having more than one molecular weights for a given polymer sample. Why cannot we just say Mn? We will try to see whether the necessity of we can explain whether what is the necessity of this different molecular weights. So, in this lecture what we have learned the continuous and classification, the detailed differences between your chain polymers and step polymers, and then we studied the nomenclature, and we have studied the molecular weight, and we will continue from the molecular weight and move to the step growth polymerization mechanism in next class.